All right, what's up, everyone? I am back here on Candid Concepts. If you're watching from YouTube or if you're just listening from my podcast, I'm back with my man Lonnie G. We just actually did a Candid Concepts episode on Lonnie being a vegan chef. If you have not already checked that one out, you should probably go back and check it out. It was really good. It was really informative. Lonnie dropped a lot of knowledge on veganism and being a chef and all of that. But just once again, in case if you don't know, Lonnie's an ENFJ that I actually profiled, I think a year ago, about a year ago or
August,
so.
September was like
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, something like that. And to be honest, like Lonnie has gone through a lot. I'll just say that. He has gone through a lot. He does not look like what he's gone through, but man, he thought that he was an INFJ 2. We ended up finding out that he was an ENFJ Enneagram 3. And he's actually a very good example of one. And although we just did the podcast on veganism and everything, Lonnie had a lot of things that he wanted to talk about that he doesn't usually get to talk about. And we are on Candid Concepts. So you're tuning in, and that means that you're ready for the after party. And this is about to be free flow discussion. I have no idea what type of bones Lonnie's about to throw out here, but let's go.
Man, I guess where could I start? I would say, one thing I've learned a lot, and this actually kind of ties into what we was talking about earlier, with just being like a vegan chef and stuff. And it's like I see this dynamic of like my career, my persona versus like who I actually am inside,
Okay.
Like, I kind of want to talk about that because I find it interesting as the more I get like notoriety for certain things. And it's like, because I look at myself as a very, well-rounded person, I don't ever want to box myself into one thing too much. And it's like, sometimes I see that with my chef stuff. I'm like, I get so much praise and like admiration for that. And I'm like, yo, but there's like so many other layers to myself outside of that thing, And I be feeling like sometimes like the more inner, deeper parts of myself, like I'm a very like philosophical type of person, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, we know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have my deeper thoughts and things that I be wanting to talk about, but sometimes a part of me be feeling like, but like what's good for the brand and like the business and like, the image,
man.
and I be feeling that this is an internal thing that I don't really talk about, but sometimes I feel that pull and tug of like, okay, the outer Lonnie, like, the ego, the identity, and then like the inner Lonnie, like who you really are, I be feeling that pulling that tug sometimes. And I've kind of like have learned how to incorporate just more like my deeper self and just like the things that I really want to talk about and stuff. Like I'm really big on, like self-development and stuff like that. I read a lot of like different books and just watch different people, like Gary Vee and stuff like that. Like people like that really influence me because I'm always just looking at how can I better myself and how can I like help other people better themselves and like, teach and stuff like that. And I think a lot about just like the way society is set up and just, it's crazy just looking how things are changing. People's mentalities are changing. And it comes to everything: diet, food, religion, spirituality, relationships, dating, work, career, like all aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? We're seeing the evolution. We're seeing how people are changing their mindsets and their mentalities. And that's something that I really like. I like to talk about that a lot because I'm a very mental person and I really just observe things and I look at the patterns of how things move. And it's just really crazy just to see like where society is, how it's evolving,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'll definitely say, like, for one, immediately what came to mind with you talking about how like you don't want to just be like boxed in. I don't know if you've ever heard of the pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah, man. If y'all haven't heard of him, he's, in my opinion, he's a great pastor. And he actually featured on another pastor, Stephen Furtick. He's featured on 2 different interviews with this man, Stephen Furtick, and both of those interviews, like I honestly if you're not, whether you're Christian or whether you're atheist, whatever, I really, really, really highly like just encourage you to go and watch that interview. It's kind of lengthy, but it's for a reason. Like everything that this man TD Jakes drops is knowledge, like for real. Like it's like, and I'm proud to actually say like he's an ENFJ. He's also an ENFJ 3. He's an Enneagram 3, I believe.
I could see that. That's probably why I seen some of his videos on TikTok before.
Yo, oh
like,
yeah,
I relate to like how he be explaining some things sometimes. That's crazy.
If you look at his beginnings, like his humble beginnings, God dang, like he literally like talks about how people like to try to say like, yo, yeah, like I'm all about the money and this, that, but y'all don't understand. Like back in the day when I was going through the woods and I was preaching to squirrels and stuff like that because I didn't have anyone. And I only had one frying pan in the house because we were that broke. And we were so broke that I only had one suit as a pastor. I only had one suit, and we only had like 40 people in my church on Easter Sunday. Y'all know that Easter Sunday is the day that like your churches be packed. So that means that his church was like real small. And he was like, and he said that one suit, like he had to wash it in the washing machine because he couldn't even like, go to like dry clean or something like that. Like, so he really came from humble beginnings, and now like he's as big as he is. And the reason why I'm alluding to him right now is because in that interview, Stephen Furtick, who I personally believe is an ESTP, and I think that he could no, I personally thought that he could be an Enneagram 3 potentially, but I wasn't entirely sure. And then apparently like his wife is into Enneagram and says that he's an Enneagram 1. I don't know. But anyway, I am like fairly certain though that he's an ESTP. And he introduced Bishop TD Jakes as the slasher. And the reason why he introduced him is because he was like, if y'all know Bishop TD Jakes, he's a pastor, he's a writer, he's a movie director, he's a father, he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. And it was like, and Bishop TD Jakes, like he said, when you're in the church, then people try like I said, he makes everything just sound like, oh, I got to tweet that. So the way that he phrased it, yeah, I'm telling you, if you go listen to that interview, you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, man, the way that he phrased it, he said something along the lines of like Stephen Furtick was like, yeah, so like that's why I call him the slasher, because he's like so many things. And he asked him the question, and TD Jakes, this old ENFJ Uncle Iroh looking type of man, he's like,
Uncle Iroh.
He's like, I never knew how much fame could like restrict me. He said something that I can't even remember how beautifully he put it, but pretty much he was saying like how fame like boxed him so much in his own like category, to where like, people made it seem like because he's a writer, he has to stick to that, or because he's a whatever, he has to stick to that.
That's so relatable though, because I don't even have a whole bunch of fame or notoriety.
Exactly,
I'd be feeling like, yo, like y'all are expecting me to just be like this all the time. Like that's not me all the time. Like, like that's really relatable. I kind of always feel like I'm more of a jack of all trades naturally. You know what I'm saying? Like I never really felt like, even when I just think about like the things that I'm interested in and like me being a chef and stuff like that, like I never really would have seen myself. I never seen myself as like a creative type of person, or like, oh, I'm just super great at this one skill. Like, some people, they can just sing, they can just draw, or they can paint. They just know how to like skateboard or ride a bike. They're just so good at that. You could just see the natural like skill in them from like a kid. I didn't really feel like I had that growing up as a kid. I knew how to make friends, I knew how to talk to people. And I knew how to do stuff like that, especially like, growing up a Jehovah Witness and like, we having to like go out and preach and talk to people and stuff like that. I was good at that. Like I remember at like 12, 13 or 14, I was able to like, they would have like different conventions and stuff like that for the Jehovah Witnesses. At one point in time, I was able to be on stage and speak in front of like 1,000+ people. And I just, so even just that. And when I was Jehovah's Witness, I was like the poster child. I was the one that did everything right. I was kind of put on a pedestal in a way. Even being the oldest sibling too, like I can definitely see
that's
that.
Enneagram 3 is crap.
Exactly. I mean, and it felt good. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I bet.
I like the attention, but sometimes I didn't like the attention. I'm like, yo, I just want my credit when it's due. Like, leave me alone. I think I was way more to myself when I was younger too. I wasn't as social and stuff. I didn't like a bunch of attention. I was more low key. But
I feel you.
Still to this day, I kind of still resonate with that a little bit because I'm like, all right, you get to a level and it's like people start seeing you as this thing and they give you all this admiration. I'm like, okay, like that's cool, but you know what I'm saying? It gets overwhelming sometimes. So sometimes I be feeling like, yo, you're gonna have to learn how to deal with it because I see myself. I feel like I am gonna be like very. I don't want to say famous, but I could see myself being a very influential.
Yeah.
I just see that naturally in myself and how I move. I'm like, yeah, bro, you're gonna be big, I guess.
Yeah.
And like a part of me feels like I'm gonna have to learn how to deal with that attention and that type of like, because it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah,
it looks good on paper, it feels good in the moment, but it can be extremely draining and tiring when you're feeling like you have to perform and live up to these expectations all the time because you're trying to keep up a certain, I don't want to say keep up a certain image, but like people looking at you a certain way. You don't want to like let them down. Like, a lot of that goes to childhood too. I kind of feel like I'm like rambling, but that kind of goes back to childhood too, though. Like, when they talk about like attachment styles and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And how you deal with like attention and like if you didn't get enough attention from your parents and you probably sought it out from other people. Like all these things be running through my mind sometimes. And I'm like, yo, like this is crazy. Like, I want to keep myself grounded, but like at the same time, still be me, you know what I'm saying? But I don't want to like ever feel like I'm trying to fit a specific narrative, like I want to have that control. Like, no, I can switch it up I can switch it up whenever I want. In 5 years, I may not want to be a vegan chef no more. I change my mind and be like, all right, I want to be a DJ. I really love music. I really see myself being a DJ one day too. I have really good. My music taste is good. I know it is, and I know I can rock a party. I remember like it would be times that I would get on the aux, like if there was like a function or a gathering, I was Jehovah's Witness. And I would like, I would do good. Like I'll play good songs. I'll play some songs that old. People are like, what's that? I'm like, yeah, you don't even know that. But yeah, like that's something that I see for myself too. So I don't ever want to box myself in and feel like, oh, I gotta only be a chef because everybody already sees me as like, no, I could switch it up in an instant. It was the same thing when I went vegan or when I, left the Jehovah's Witness religion. It shocked a lot of people, but I'm like, y'all don't really know me. Like, I can really change at any moment. Like nothing is really set in stone, But the funniest thing, and I think maybe other NI users or ENFJs could relate to this, is like I don't just make impulse decisions just for the sake of making. I think I had tweeted at one time when we was talking on Twitter. I don't make impulse decisions for the sake of making impulse decisions.
Oh yeah.
I'm always thinking like months and time in advance before I make a move. That's why I'm telling you now. I know I'm going to be big. I've already had the thought process of it happening. So mentally, I'm prepared, you know what I'm saying? So when I do make a decision, it seems like on the surface, oh, he just made this out of the blue. What is he doing? You don't know. I've been thinking about this for like 2 years.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
Then I finally built the confidence to be like, all right, I'm gonna make a move. And then I do it. But it seems so spontaneous to people because they're like, yo, you're just doing this. And then you go jump and do this. And then you go do that. Like, what are you? You're just all over the place. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm really not all over the place. I know exactly what I'm doing.
There's definitely a method to the madness.
It's a method to the madness, but externally, it just looks like you're doing a bunch of like just throwing darts on the wall.
For sure. No, I totally feel that. I totally get it. Number one, I want to say that you saying y'all don't really know me, I can change at any given moment. That's Enneagram 3 is crap. plus FE.
That's a Gemini thing too. But that's into astrology. For the astrology people, I think that's a Gemini thing too.
Yeah. I bet the two heads, right? Y'all don't know me. I can change at any given moment. No, I feel you though. I feel you though. The number two thought that I had was, again, another celebrity that I don't know why they just keep on. I mean, I guess the reason why these people keep on coming to mind is because you probably are kind of like them. J. Cole, who I also believe is an ENFJ, Enneagram 3. Same thing for him. Like, you know, this dude is a rapper. Like, he's one of the best rappers, in my opinion, like out there. And now, out of nowhere, this man switched it up and he's trying to go into the NBA, and everybody's like, yo, what? But little do they know that this man has been thinking about that for like a long time. It's not just some abrupt decision that he just made. And so I think that's also like really interesting. And even though like I'm not a 3, I kind of relate because not as a 9, like, you know, I moved to 3. And I personally have this, like, I do like, you know, feel like life coaching is the one thing that I kind of like want to do aside from also like acting. Like, I want to get into acting and everything eventually. Like, so I want to actually life coach actors and actresses, and then start, you know, trying my hand in acting. And that's like the fixated goal that I kind of have with that. But I also I see kind of what you're saying in me too, not necessarily career wise, but more of like on my channel. Like, I feel like on my channel, like, you know, I've seen, like, for example, Megan and I, like, we were like at one point like the only ENFJs. I feel like low key we still kind of are, like the only ENFJs like on YouTube who like are really like posting stuff like that.
Yeah, y'all really are the 2 most consistent.
Yeah, that's what
And
I think.
I relate to y'all the most too, of course. But
yeah,
y'all
and so,
2 are
like,
the most consistent from what I
that's
see.
and we both like started like around the same time. But I noticed like right away, like one of the things that that she does differently than what I do, which, by the way, before anybody tries to, like, you know, use this in any fashion, like, this is not a dig at Megan at all. You know, it's just an observation that I made that I was like, oh shoot, that's different. And I just personally did not want to go that route, but I see how like that definitely seemed to work out for her.
Right.
Not only did she post like, you know, videos like all the time, but they were also like always about MBTI. Like, they were like they were focused specifically on MBTI, and she was like making a lot of like videos like specifically for ENFJs, in a way. Like, she would say things like cognitive functions explained by an ENFJ. ENFJ explains all, you know, or ENFJ, like, you know, ENFJ just being like the title, like, you know, really like putting this in your face, like, I'm an ENFJ, I'm making content on ENFJ, this, that. And for me, that was something that like I never really like did too much of. Like, I made Myers-Briggs videos, but to be honest, like, that was something that like, and I'm not saying that she wants to be boxed in this either. If anything, she's moving in more into astrology now too. But like,
Yeah, I noticed that too.
yeah, but like for me, like, I've always been like, well, yeah, this is like a Myers-Briggs, like, you know, like I'm really into Myers-Briggs and Enneagram and stuff like that. But y'all can see from like my banner, like, it says poet, it says life coach, it says this. Like, I feel like, you know, like, I am actually like, I'm interested in so many different things, and Myers-Briggs is just one of them. And so I didn't want to like box my channel just in the Myers-Briggs, like, you know, thing. Like, in fact, I remember one person had commented some years ago and was like, oh man, you know, I wish that all of your videos were on Myers-Briggs, then I probably would have subscribed. And I was just like, I was thinking to myself, like, dang, like, that's a real statement right there. Like, you know, like, if I had more consistently like stuck to just posting Myers-Briggs stuff,
You probably would have had a bigger, or
I would have a lot
I can see
more
that.
audience. Yeah, but at the
I
same
mean,
time, I
but
felt like that would be like betraying myself too, because then that would be restricting me from being able to talk about the things that I want to talk about. Like right now, like in our last video, again, you're a whole ENFJ, but we barely mentioned anything about typology in that video. We were talking specifically about veganism and stuff like that. And I want to have the freedom to be able to do that, because if I stuck myself in that box, just of like Myers-Briggs, then if I post a video now where I'm talking about like, oh, this Christian concept or whatever, like, oh, now we're talking about, you know, this or this is that, whatever it might be, it could
right.
seem so left field, and people would be like, wait a minute, like, this isn't a Myers-Briggs video, what's going on? But like, if anything, like, I kind of want to keep people like, oh, Denzel posts, sometimes it's on Myers-Briggs, sometimes it's on Christianity, sometimes it's a random spoken word, sometimes it's on this. we never know what we're really gonna get from him. But I also try to like keep playlists, like if y'all haven't checked them out, but like on my channel, like I have a playlist where it's like this is for all of like these are all of my Myers-Briggs videos. This is a playlist for all of my Enneagram videos. This is a playlist for all of my spoken words. This is a playlist for all of my Christian subscribers and stuff like that. This is playlist for my interviews, like all of that, and I feel like that's my way of like, in a way, kind of doing the same thing with what you're talking about. Like, I didn't want to box myself into only talking about Myers-Briggs concepts. I wanted to have that freedom to be able to move and maneuver because I am interested in a lot of different things. So to an extent, I kind of relate to what you're saying.
Where, yeah, it's like, it's a diversity thing. I would say that's the thing I've noticed. Like, ever since I was younger, like I just always have variety of interests. And I even think about too with my journey of like with food, like I just used to always love watching Food Network and the cooking shows and just seeing them. I just like that as a kid, like, yo, that's so cool how they can come up with this. So I started practicing at home. And then, in high school and stuff, I remember in 9th grade, I used to want to be a car designer. People don't even know this about me.
What?
Some people know. I used to be really into cars. Like I used to love cars and stuff, like cars, riding bikes. I used to love watching the X Games as a kid. I still watch it sometimes. I used to love all of that stuff. Like going to like, what's that Atlanta Motor Speedway they have down here? Like going to see like different races and like drag races. Like my dad used to take us to do stuff like that. And I used to love that as a kid. I used to like draw cars. I wasn't really good. I used to suck. I honestly was trash. I really couldn't draw that well, but I thought I was doing a little something. But
hey, that's you being modest.
Yeah, I used
being
to be
honest
really
about what
that.
you're good at, what you're bad at.
Yeah, I used to really like love that and be like so enamored in it. I still like cars and stuff like that. I don't talk about it as much because I don't really know people would really care, or I don't know. I don't really talk about it, but I used to really be into that. And then like in high school, I kind of made the switch. Like I kind of just thought to myself, like, I can't draw. I'm not going to be a car designer. So I just gave that up. I'm like, all right, I like cooking. I'm going to start practicing cooking and baking. So I just started doing that. And then, yeah, and I used to love playing video games a lot too, like Madden and 2K and stuff like that. But something about cooking just stuck with me. So all throughout high school, I started practicing. I even started selling stuff to my classmates. People don't even know this. That was like my hustle. Like, cause I didn't even work a job in high school. I used to make brownies and cookies, all types of stuff. I used to sell chips, like, Doritos, Powerade, Skittles. I used to sell that stuff in high school to my classmates. It wasn't nothing expensive, like $1, $2 for a brownie. People used to ask me, the full circle moment, people used to ask me, do you sell edibles? And I used to be like, yo, I don't even know where to get weed from. Like, that's crazy. So just seeing that I have a business with edibles now, it was just like, wow, like that's a full circle. I would have never seen myself doing this, but that's funny too. But just to kind of sum it up, like all throughout high school, I was just doing that. And people were like, yo, your food is good. Your stuff is good. So then that made me think like, all right, well, I didn't really know what else I wanted to go to school for. I didn't even want to go to college. I'm like, yo, I don't want to be in school for another 4 years. That's boring. I was a good student, actually. I had good grades, 3.8 average. Got A's and B's.
Nice.
I was pretty solid. I had AP classes and honors classes, but I'm like, yo, it was mad stressful trying to keep that up. Yeah. So long story short, I didn't really want to go to college, but I knew I could cook well. So, you know the story. That's why I basically ended up going to culinary school and stuff. But yeah, just the whole like not wanting to be in a box. Like that was just always hard for me. And even when I was Jehovah's Witness, that was kind of hard too, because I had multiple interests in things outside of what I guess the religion would say was, acceptable. And they used to be kind of hard because I'm like, well, externally, I got to come off like this and do this and that. But internally, I know I'm into this or I'm into that. Then they may not think is acceptable. So I kind of just had to get out of that box. Like, I just didn't want to feel like I'm being pressured to have to always do the same thing over and over. Some people like that. It's a level of consistency and predictability that comes with, okay, I know this person is going to do this 90% of the time. Right. With me, you might not really know, like, oh, he might switch up on me, or he might decide to go change lanes and do something different. But I think that's the freedom that's what free will is, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has that in them. You could literally change your mind and be like, I don't want to do this no more. And
Yeah.
what's wrong with changing your mind? What's wrong with being able to say, okay, I want to do something different, you know? Like, I don't know. I think more people need to explore that mentality more. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to just stay stuck to something just because it's all you knew your whole life. Think about all the inventors and crazy people that invented and created so many things. What if they didn't have the idea to think, yo, like, let me come up with something? The Wright brothers in the airplane, they just was like, yo, we've got to fly. Nobody never did that. Nobody never thought that was possible.
Right.
Now we're on airplanes every day.
Yeah, and it's cash too. It's cash too. Like people just be on the airplane sleeping. They just because it's just normal now. Like it's like the next best thing eventually just becomes today's SI. Like that's also like the interesting thing too. Like, you know, extrovert intuition is all about like, you know, looking at what was done in the past and then kind of like revamping that in a more novel way, you know, and then next thing you know, like after that becomes a new norm, then now we see that as like the SI kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, you know, that's a plane, you know, it's normal. Like, yeah, they fly. Yeah, I can be in Atlanta in like, you know, about 2 hours now, you know, it ain't no problem. Even cars, you know, like people back then, they could look at what we got right now and just be like, what? Well,
imagine if somebody from the 1900s seen this interaction. They seen us talking to each other on a piece of glass. They would lose their mind. Like, yo,
it was witchcraft. They would have definitely thought
they'd be like, how are you doing? How is he? Yeah. How is he right there in this little thing?
Start poking. It's crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy, man, for real. But no, I totally feel you on that. And actually, to low key switch gears because I know your story.
Yeah.
But other people don't really know your story. I don't really know how comfortable you are sharing a lot about it. But like I mentioned in the vegan video, Lonnie is actually someone who did really well with something that a lot of FE dominants, that's ENFJs, ESFJs, don't usually do very well with. That is following their logic, which is their inferior function. So the reason why this is more difficult is because FE as a dominant function can tend to sometimes conform to the people around them or like want to like please the people around them and is all about the connections of those people. So once an FE dominant especially is in a community of people, then it'll kind of that person will kind of like adopt the logic or whatever of those people to kind of like, you know, continue to keep the peace and not want to sever those ties. But sometimes if they find that their own logic, whatever makes sense to them, conflicts with the people around them, they might throw it away, one, or they might hold on to it, but then not say anything about it so they can continue to keep the FE, or they might completely, this is where it's like, you know, the EFJ is like very developed. They might be like, you know what, screw the community around me. I want to follow this core logic, this whatever makes sense to me. And the good thing about that decision is that once you do that, you will eventually find people who will actually probably like share that ideology with you. And then you've developed an FE that does not conflict with your TI. And so that, I think that's something that's been like amazing that I've always thought about with you, Lonnie, because, you know, you came from the Jehovah's Witness background and everything like that. And you are someone who, again, like, you know, stop me if I'm like saying too much, but like from what I remember, you actively, like, you were in what you now consider to be a cult. And you're like, you're like, yo, like I was learning about this. They were trying to keep me from learning this information. Why were they doing that? You still sought out the information and you went with the logic that you had. You lost mad friends. You were highly esteemed in that community. You gave up almost everything.
Everything I ever knew. Right.
And now you have a life. You seem still happy and everything. And like, dude, how is that like? Like, tell us about that.
Man, it's honestly, like, if I'm being real, like, it still just makes me like, some days I just wake up and I look at my life. I'm like, yo, like I used to really be a very different person like a couple years ago. Like sometimes I can't even believe just looking at how I changed and evolved. Like,
Yeah, what year was that again, by the way, just for reference?
2017 was like the year when I really started to, that was the year, like I would say my spiritual awakening happening. Like that's why I feel like I went vegan. Like it's just, I don't know. I just had these realizations that just started hitting me. And I just started realizing, like, I just started thinking for myself more. And I'm like, yo, this doesn't make sense. Why are they telling us this? Why are they teaching us this? Why are they hiding this? I started questioning things a lot more. I've always been the type of kid to question stuff. Even I remember when I was younger, I remember asking my mom, like, have you ever died before? Like, I used to ask just really interesting questions, and she used to be like, no. And I'm like, why? Well, like I used to just try to understand why. Like I need to understand why something is before I can accept it. And it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then it's like, I'm not gonna believe you. That doesn't add up. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I am. So
yeah,
you know, growing up, that what you even said about, you know, extroverted feeling, and like how sometimes we kind of care too much about the tribe and trying to keep up the peace. And I was like that a lot. I didn't want to say certain things. I would know a lot of stuff. I didn't want to come off as like, oh, you being smart, or oh, you always think you know everything. Cause you know, I kind of got that as a kid, you know, being smart, having good grades. Oh, you think you're smart, you think you know this, you know that. Cause I was pretty witty. You know, I would have some slick remarks, or I would say things. But, you know, going to the Jehovah's Witness thing, like I just started questioning things. I just used to sit back when I used to just be at the Kingdom Hall. The Kingdom Hall is like, you know, what they call church. When I used to be at the Kingdom Hall, I used to just sit there and listen to, like, when they would give the sermons and they would talk. They call it like talks or whatever, like when they go on stage and they speak. And some things just wouldn't make sense to me. And I'm like, well, why do y'all say this about women, but the Bible says this, this, and this? Well, how come women don't have any type of like leadership roles? If you look at the Jehovah's Witness religion, it's all men that lead everything. Women don't have no type of like, I don't want to say rights, but they don't have no type of like leadership position, or like, it was just a lot of things that I just started looking at and thinking about. They talked about not having beards, that the Bible says there's a certain scripture in the Bible that talks about why you shouldn't cut your facial hair. And I'm like, well, why are you guys telling us that we have to do this? And the Bible says this. Like, it was just a bunch of rules. And I was just like, okay, I hear you, but my own mindset is thinking like this. And then they would say stuff like, beware of independent thinking, because that's the devil, like trying to get at you, or like, you need to just listen to what the elders say. Don't try to question and come up with your own like ideologies. And I'm like,
that's literally going against
nah,
that's crazy.
That's I'm like, I can't, that was a hard thing for me, because I'm like, yo, I'm gonna always think for myself. Like, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I gotta have my own thought process on things. You know what I'm saying? So I just started realizing that, and then I started doing my own research on the religion, and I learned a lot of different things that blew my mind.
Even though they told you not to do that.
Even though, yeah, that's the key point too that I didn't bring up. They used to tell us not to go on the internet and research stuff about Jehovah's Witnesses, because they felt like, well, not feel like, there's people that are no longer Jehovah's Witnesses called apostates, right? Basically, it's somebody that was a Jehovah's Witness who says negative things about the religion because they're not in it no more. And, you know, in any big community or group, there's always people like that, if you think about it.
Right.
Somebody that left the NFL may be like, yo, the NFL is this, that, and the third, because they got hurt and they had a short career, or they learned some things. People might look at them as crazy conspiracy theorists, but they may actually know some things.
For sure.
You know? So so even looking back at it, it makes sense why they would tell us that. Because if you're trying to keep your members within the community, why are you going to allow them to go get external information?
Right.
Why are you going to let them go outside of the gate to go get food when we got it right here? They're telling you, no, we got it right here. Just listen to us. Just listen to us. Don't worry about what they're doing. That's what these people inside of cults. It's a psychological thing. But getting off topic. So I learned about the religion. I learned about like there was different child sex like abuse cases that was going on in the religion. And I remember watching YouTube videos and people just talking about their stories, and there was lawsuits. There was a $66 million lawsuit for 2 women that were like sexually abused in the religion. And the
God
Jehovah Witness
damn.
religion had to pay them 66 million. They got bread too, by the way. They're a corporation.
I
They
believe
have,
it.
they literally have a lot of money. But outside of that, I learned about that. I learned about how, you know, even the founders of the religion were like Freemasons and stuff like that. Like I learned a
Mm.
lot of stuff. I learned that they have investments in weapon companies. Man, it was just so many things. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like at first, the same thing with the vegan thing. I'm like, oh no, nah, this is not real. Y'all are just making this stuff up. This is why they told us not to go on the internet, because y'all just come on here and y'all just lie. That was my mindset at first. But then I kept thinking about it. And I'm like, nah, yo, what if they really making some sense? Like, yo, what if this is really like crazy? Like, what if I really been lied to my whole life and they just been doing this and nobody knows? Like
Wow.
literally there would be little kids and stuff that get abused by the elders in the congregation and like nobody would talk about it. And I'm like, I remember telling my parents that, like when I was explaining to them my reasoning for wanting to leave, I was like, I have a little sister that's like 11 years old. I couldn't imagine if somebody did something like that to my little sister. Like, how can you support a religion that actively knows this stuff is happening and 99% of its members have no clue? Wow. Jehovah's Witnesses are all over the world. There's 8 million. Over 200 countries. So like, it just didn't click for me. I'm like, after a while, I'm like, okay, you know, I've been in this my whole life and I get it. You know what I'm saying? This is all I know. But I still had enough logic in me to be like, all right, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
For sure. Do you think that they are aware of these things and they're like intentionally like trying to like hide it? Like, are they actively like, you know, trying to hide certain things from you? You know what I mean?
Like, I would say it's not 100% intentional.
You know, yeah, like do they believe what they're actually teaching you?
Yeah. Okay. That's what made it so hard trying to explain it to my friends and family, because they really like eat, sleep, believe like what we was taught. Like it's kind of crazy even trying to explain it, because there's just certain things it just won't make sense to people that unless you grew up in it, you know what I'm saying? But like, you know, not celebrating holidays growing up, not celebrating birthdays, like all these different things over the years, it just felt normal. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just like I was going back to the vegan thing. You're conditioned a certain way. You was conditioned to think a certain way. So nobody in the religion was taught to question things, and stuff would happen. You know, like sex abuse cases would happen and stuff like that. Or like say a woman is in an abusive relationship. They don't believe in divorce unless it's on grounds of like, what's that word called? Adultery. They don't believe in divorce unless adultery take place, right? So I'm like, in my mind, I used to be like, so if somebody's getting beat every day, you telling me God said they can't get a divorce because they haven't committed adultery? That's not right. That's not right. People have stayed in abusive relationships just because of that, because they don't want to displease God. But it's not. You're not displeasing God. You're displeasing the elders, people that's telling you that. If that's something happening, you should go to the police and get a divorce or do whatever you gotta do. Yeah, that doesn't make no sense. But they used to say stuff like that. They used to teach us that. So,
and like you said, they actually believed it too.
They actually really do believe in what they're teaching, and it's like it's kind of bittersweet talking about this, because I don't want to make it seem like everybody that's Jehovah's Witness is just a super bad person.
Right. I'm trying to be careful of that too.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a lot of genuine, pure people in that religion that I really like even miss a lot of the times. I think about them, like all my old friends, they just didn't know any better. You know what I'm saying? They're being conditioned to think a certain way by these group of men and stuff like that, and all these different teachings. And my thing is, I would respect it more if you allow people to come to their own conclusions and to think for themselves, instead of trying to make it seem like, oh, if you're not with us, then you're out there in the world. You're in Satan's world now. That's literally how they look at you.
Yeah.
Once you leave, they like, oh, you're in the world now. You left us.
Yeah.
We can't interact with you like that no more.
Yeah. Yeah. They completely cut you off, right? I forgot what the word was for that.
Basically, it's basically like, well, basically I disassociated myself. So that basically means like I said that I don't want to be a part of religion no more. But they look at that in the same light, basically, is like getting disfellowship, which basically means when you get baptized as Jehovah's Witness, right? You're basically, I say it's like signing a contract. You're basically like signing a contract to that religion saying, okay, I'm dedicated into this for the rest of my life. When you get baptized, it's not like church or regular, you know, to dip your head in the water and that's it. Nah, it's deeper than that. It's like you're dedicating your life, you know, they say to Jehovah, God. You're really dedicating your life to the religion. You know what I'm saying? Saying that, okay, I choose this life path. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. So if you do something against the quote unquote rules, let's say you have sex outside of marriage, or like you like smoke weed, or you do something, you watch porn or something like that. And like the elders find out, you know, the people in the congregation that have like the higher positions, let's say they find out, right? You can get in trouble for that because those go against the rules, basically.
Right.
So you could get like disfellowshipped, like where you basically none of your family or your friends will talk to you. They'll cut off communication with you because you did something, you know, against, you know, God's whatever. So they like leave you alone until like you quote unquote repent, and then they accept you back in. That's a cult. Come on.
Yeah.
Like that's a cult.
Up.
That's literally a cult. Yeah. And they use that whole mentality of like, it's even crazy when somebody does get disfellowship, they announce it on the stage, like such and such is.
Nah.
It's crazy. Such and such is no longer a Jehovah's Witness.
That's so deep.
And then it's even more crazy because look, let's say you got disfellowship for a year or two. Right. You repent, you say you're sorry. The elders are like, okay, well, you know, we'll reinstate you. They literally at the Kingdom Hall at the meeting, they'll be like, such and such is now being reinstated as Jehovah's Witness. The same people in the crowd, because the funny thing is too, when you're disfellowship, you can come to the meetings, you can come to the Kingdom Hall and still like participate and, you know, learn, but nobody will talk to you. Mad weird. It's crazy. We used to literally see people that we used to be friends with a week ago, and now they got disfellowship. Mom and dad is like, you can't talk to them no more. I'm like, why? What did they do? They got disfellowship. I didn't know what that mean really as a kid. I'm like, oh, that means we can't talk to them because they did something bad. So let's say that happens, right? Let's say you repent and forgive you. They'll say on stage, such and such is being reinstated as Jehovah's Witness. So now you can talk to them. So at the end of the meeting, everybody's talking and hugging this person that they stopped talking to for a year or two. If that's not mind control, what is that? What is that? What does that sound like to you? That's a cult. Wow. How can you have people mentalities on a string like that? Yeah, that's crazy. It's like an off and on switch. Yeah. So that's when I started realizing, like, yo, that's not normal. That's not real love. That's not unconditional love. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's not real love. Of course, there should be circumstances and boundaries in place if you do something wrong. Of course, that's a given. But that's not real love. You telling me you're only gonna associate with me if I'm living the lifestyle that you live. Right. You know? So they even had a really tough, that kind of like messed, I don't even want to say mess with my mind, but the way I even looked at like having friends that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses used to be hard sometimes. Because I used to have I always had a lot of good friends that were not Jehovah's Witnesses. And they knew that I was Jehovah's Witness. You know, they wouldn't make a big deal about it. But were you allowed to have those friends? Which is kind of funny because some parents are a little bit more lenient, some are not. But my parents, like, they were cool, you know, like even some of my friends from high school came to my graduation party in 12th grade. So, you know, but it was just that boundary of like, okay, well, you know, you can't do this, that, and the third because, you know, they're not like you. But it just makes me think now, like, I was just really conditioned a certain way. Like the conditioning was just so deep. So my question then becomes, because this is one of the things that wouldn't make sense to me, like it's not consistent. How are you allowed to have friends that are not Jehovah's Witness, but then if you do something wrong as a Jehovah's Witness, then the other Jehovah's Witnesses see you as disfellowship, and then therefore they cannot communicate with you anymore? Right. It's weird. That's what I'm saying, because, you know, of course, I even have family members that are Jehovah's Witness. So we used to hang out with them and do stuff. But that's what I'm saying. The cognitive dissonance doesn't make any sense because it's like, how can I hang out with people that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses, but if I do something wrong as one, I get treated like I'm a stranger.
You're even
But
worse
yet,
than those
you
people.
can still go interact with those same type of people that's not Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, exactly.
You see how
I
that
make
doesn't make
maybe
sense?
I'm wondering if it's because they see what you're doing as actual hypocrisy. That's actually like one thing
Because
that
you started with them, and then now you're not with them. That's why
yeah,
they were. It's a
yeah,
different level of perspective to the people that didn't grow up in it. They're like, oh, well, they didn't grow up in it anyway. So
yeah.
I don't expect that out of them. Yeah,
No, I
it's
feel that.
crazy.
I do think, and like I said, we're doing candid concepts. So I'm gonna be a little bit real here and share something that might be a little racy, but I do think that there's a difference between hypocrisy and just again like being human, humanity, you know.
Right.
And that being said, one of the things, you know, people could probably disagree with me, but I think that hypocrisy is when you're preaching something is wrong and you know all of that, and then and you're kind of like even looking down on people who are doing that wrong thing, but then you're doing it consistently, you know, um in your own life, like whether in secret or in public or whatever, like you're not even living up to like whatever you're preaching, and not even that you're not living up to it, but that you're like you're not even really like trying, but and you're looking down on other people for it. Whereas there's a difference between like if you're like preaching about it, but then you're also like admitting like, yo, to be honest, like I struggle with this joint too, you know, and I really am trying to like work on this. So me falling to this sin, to this struggle or whatever, is not me hopefully communicating that I'm a hypocrite of any sort, but rather that I'm a human and that I promise you I'm trying, but you know, sometimes a brother slips up sometimes. So my
Right.
like the one of the things that I like reflected on in the past actually was that I became a Christian when I mean I grew up as a Christian, but I started taking like, you know, my walk with Jesus Christ like seriously at the age of 15, 16. And then when I got into high school, like I had like never done anything like sexual with like any woman, you know, up to that point. Like all that I'd seen at that point, you know, like porn and stuff like that here and there. But like I really did have like a super like I want to be respectful toward women kind of mindset and you know stuff like that. I got into high school and I was new at this school, and there was this girl, you know, who honestly, okay, there were girls there who knew that because I was a Christian and everything, I didn't go to the school parties and stuff like that because
Yeah.
I was trying to like, you know, continue to keep like my image, you know, like did I want women to be twerking on me and stuff like that? Absolutely. Like, yo, I remember
Wow.
like I went to like probably like
That's
two
crazy.
parties. Like one was homecoming, the other one was like prom, you know. And at homecoming, I remember like some dudes like they brought a chair to the middle of the because we had the dance in the gym. They brought it to the middle of the gym, sat down, and folded their arms like this. I didn't know what was going on. Next thing you know, women just started pulling up and dancing on them. I was like, "Yo, is that easy?" Yo, so I remember
That's
like
hilarious.
in all honesty, like I was looking at them and I was like, dang, like I want to experience that. Like that looks fun, you know? But I know if I do that today, tomorrow, people are gonna be looking at me like, oh, I thought you was a Christian. Like
Exactly. Not
that.
that's so relatable. That's so
Yeah.
relatable.
And so yeah, and like you know, there
That's
was
so
even times
relatable.
where like, you know,
Wow.
a girl would try like dance on me and it's like I wanted that, but you know, I'd be like, nah, I'm sorry, you know, like I could cover my crotch or something, you know. And I'm like, yo, I should just I should just be careful.
Yo,
So
that's so funny.
yeah, that's how I was
Wow.
in high school. So it got to a point where since all the girls like knew this, like there was one party that I was going to, and I overheard girls, like other classmates, like, you know, they were like discussing stuff and they were like, it was to the point where I was like, oh, let's see who can get Denzel to dance first. Not because they were like actually like attracted to me, at least not that thing, but just
It was
simply
just trying to
because
test you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a challenge, you know, like yo, if we could be the one to get this man to fall,
Oh
that means
my.
like we really got it going on. Like that's how it was for me. Like that was like the temptation. kind of thing. And then it got to a point, like, this is where it's really crazy. There was one girl who one day, like, ever since I was younger, I always wore, like, like some type of like necklace, it
Same.
was a dog
Or
tag,
like
stuff
beads
like
or something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just always had something like kind of like show off like who I am. Like this right now, even is like from a series of unfortunate events. It's seen as like an eyeball, but it's actually a VFD. It stands for Volunteer Fire Department. They put out figurative and literal fires, stuff like that. It's a whole nerdy thing,
Interesting.
but yeah, exactly.
Word.
But back then I had this like other dog tag, and like this girl, she had taken it, and she ran off after school into the park, and she was like I chased after her, and we went into this like remote section in the park. I'm trying to get my necklace back, and I kid you not, like excuse my French, excuse my candid nature on this podcast, this video, but kid you not, this girl was literally like, I'm not gonna give this back to you until you let me suck your dick. And I was like,
Oh wow.
dude.
Man had the temptations.
And
I'm crying.
I'm gonna be real. Like, I've never shared this story like publicly or anything like that.
Wow.
I'm gonna be real. Like,
That's crazy.
that's where it started from. Like, this was like 10th grade. Like, that's where it started from. I was like,
You was really
get my
dedicated, man.
necklace back. I gotta get my necklace back. And so from that point on, it was to the point where like, every once in a while, like that girl would like hit me up and like, hey, you wanna hang out like after school? I knew what she meant by that. And I'd be like, I mean, all right, and that's what we
Oh
would
my
do.
God. This is
But the
like your
reason why
version. This is like your version of Wet Dreams. By
Word. And she was trying to take my virginity a lot too. Like there
Wow.
was actually one day where she tried to, and I kept on telling her no, and she tried to like put it in. I ran. I legitimately ran, and then I
Oh
texted
my
her after. I was
God.
like, "Yo, like if that happens again, like I'm not hanging out with you no more." That was the line that I drew. Like I was serious, like about that. Like I was like, I
Word.
gotta save this for my wife. I gotta save this for my wife, kind of thing. And so, but the reason why I'm bringing this all up is because me and that girl, the thing that she said that she really liked a lot about me was that she saw me as like a gentleman, like because she was actually like, I don't want to say, she was kind of promiscuous, like she slept around with like a lot of the guys at school.
Word.
She looked really good. Like a lot of the dudes, like, yeah, and we all like knew her as that, like
Right.
but and so I would often wonder, I'd be like, why are you so pressed about me? Like,
Because you
like,
stand out.
you
Because you
know,
stand out differently. You're not trying to chase
that's,
it down.
yeah, that's pretty much what it was to her. And then on top of that, like it grew even more because she had said that like whenever we would like, hang out and stuff like that, she would actually like tell me stuff like, you didn't tell, like you're actually like so kind, because after we would do whatever we did, then we would just sometimes if we're at her house, we just lay down and we just watch, TV. Or like we would just sit down and talk about stuff. And she said that all the other dudes, they just literally come and go. It's all right,
Yeah.
I'll be back for the re-up, kind of thing. But like for me, like, I'll text her, I'll hit her up and I'll be like, hey, yo, like, I just got home, or like, did you get home safely? Stuff like that. And again, full circle, one of the things that I used to talk to her about was like, she knew I was a Christian. And I told her straight up, like we would have
Right.
conversations about Jesus and stuff like that. And I'd tell her straight up, like, yeah, to be honest, even what we're doing right now, what we have been doing, this is this is not pleasing.
Yo, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And
That's
to
funny.
me, looking back, I personally see that as not being a hypocrite, because I was just being real and telling her straight up. I wasn't trying to shift it up and switch it and be like, oh, yeah, this isn't wrong. I was being honest about what was wrong as a Christian, but at the same time, I was also letting her know, like, look, I fall into this too, like, and just because I'm doing this does not mean that, like, it's right. But also, I want you to know, like, I really do be trying, like, and I want to stop this. And eventually I was able to stop it because like, my guilty conscience, like my convictions, it just kept on like hitting me. And so to me, once again, like, you know, that's, I guess, like, I feel like one difference between like hypocrisy and just being human. I feel like in that situation, I would have been a hypocrite if I was out there, you know, on Twitter or, you know, on pulpits or whatever, and I'm like bashing people like, yo, you getting head? Like, you're going to hell, you're sick, you're this, you know, all of this. Like, what's wrong
Oh
with
my
you?
God.
Don't you know the Bible says you gotta wait till marriage? Boom, 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 boom. But then, you know, you
Right.
look at my life and I'm doing the exact same thing. Like, you know, that I feel is hypocritical. But
Yeah.
if I'm out there and I'm like, yo, honestly, like, yeah, this is wrong. Yo, I feel you. Because just yesterday, I'm not even gonna front. I was with old girl, you know, like, to
Nah,
me,
but
that's like showing like
that's
humanity.
respectable. That's what I'm saying. Like that's really respectable because I think when I was in a religion, like it just felt so fake. Because I'm like, I see what y'all be saying,
Mm.
and I go home and I see like I don't even want to like just like try to people business out there, but sometimes I will see things, my parents. And I'm like, like that's not what we just learned about on Sunday.
Right.
Or I would
That's
see
a
some of
little bit
my friends, and I'm
questionable.
like, okay, y'all out here wilding, like y'all out here doing stuff that I know we're not really supposed to be doing. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
sometimes I used to see that hypocrisy, but then I'd be like, I can't judge because I'd be doing stuff that nobody would know. Like
Yeah.
we were not allowed to
I'm
watch
slick
like
with mine.
yeah, like we were not allowed to like watch like porn and stuff like that. And like that used to be something that I used to do like that nobody knew about. And
Pretty
sometimes I
much
even think
everything.
like I was hypocritical in some ways because I said try to act like, oh yeah, I'm all like holy and stuff, got the image. Oh yeah, Lonnie's this, this, and this. Little do they know at home,
I'm
you
out
know
in
what I'm
the
saying?
streets.
Exactly. So it's like it was just like I had to realize like a part of me couldn't be so judgmental of just like, you know, the people that's in the religion and stuff. Cause I get it. Like, nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? But at least just be honest and just say, I respect the honesty level of like, okay, well, this is the truth. You know what I'm saying? This stuff is going on in the religion and this is happening. If we were more informed and we knew what was going on and I didn't feel like y'all was just trying to just teach us something and just teach us something and just, yeah, follow this, and no question. Like I would have respected it more, but that doesn't happen. I don't know what's going on now because I'm not in it. I'm far removed, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it just didn't feel real. It didn't feel genuine. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I feel you.
that's what I really didn't appreciate about it. And I feel like there's so many genuine people in it that are like me, they're very smart, talented and creative, but the religion holds them back. A lot of
Yeah.
people, they can't do things outside of the religion.
Yeah.
Some people couldn't play sports. Some people couldn't go to
Yeah.
their prom because of the
Yeah.
religion. Oh, that's the worldly stuff. We don't want you participating in that stuff. Of
Right.
course,
Right.
we would have our own events. Like we would have like parties and we'll go skating, we'll play basketball, go hoop. We'll do everything that everybody else did. But it was just
Right.
always that boundary of like, it needs to be with the witnesses. It needs to be with like us instead
Right.
of it you going outside in the world and going to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
So like
Absolutely.
I didn't like that all the time because it used to just feel so divisive. Like, yo, like if we even like sometimes we used to go play basketball at the park and there'll be some kids that want to play with us. Some of my friends would be like, oh no, we don't want to play with them because we don't know what they might be doing or whatever, or they may be cursing and stuff. And I used to be the type of person like, yo, you can come hoop with us. Like, come on, like
Yeah,
we
man.
trying to run 505. What you trying to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
didn't really care. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, yo,
Exactly.
they just want to play.
Exactly. It don't
Of course,
matter.
throughout the game, we'll be like, hey, chill on the cussing or like, like you kind of like, moderate. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's just an example of just like their mindset of like, oh, it's either us, you're either with us or you're against us. And I didn't like that. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
like, let's just let everybody just be together and just, you know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
what I didn't like.
Sometimes even in the Christian community, like that's
Yeah,
how it is a lot of times too. Like a lot of people make it seem like if it's not Christian, then it's just not good, period. And so it's like, I only listen to Christian music and I only watch Christian movies and stuff like that.
oh my
And
God.
I have a YouTube video called God's Curfew, where in a nutshell, I'm pretty much talking about the concept of like, imagine if God set a curfew for 12 a.m. If you come in at, 9 o'clock, you're still safe. If you come in at 10:30, you're still safe. If you come in at 11:58, you're still safe. You know, 12 a.m. is the curfew, but it's become the point where like there's so many people now who have been so afraid of coming in after curfew, you know, like metaphorically speaking, that now
Yeah.
they don't some of them, like, you know, they be coming in at 8 p.m. Some of them don't even leave the house. And then now it's become like the new norm that 10 p.m. is the curfew. So now when you come in after 10 o'clock, then even though God said 12 a.m. is the curfew, 10 p.m. actually becomes what, like, you know, people are looking at you like, look at that, you know, like that person's coming in at 10:45 or whatever. And they're judging you as if like you
Right.
came in like mad late kind of thing. And my
Right.
whole thing is like, even if you came in after curfew, even if you came in after like 12 a.m., instead of judging that person, you should be like, hey, yo, Lonnie, what's good? Like, I've been noticing you be coming in like 12:45 a.m. and stuff like that. If you forgotten what curfew is, you know, do you need a ride? Like, you know, again, like this
Right.
is all very like abstract and metaphorically speaking, but you know, what I mean by that is stuff like, to me, the people who stay, like, you know, who don't even really like leave the house metaphorically are people who,
Right.
like, again, like they don't listen to secular music, they don't watch anything aside from Christian stuff. That's cool. I'm not gonna try and get you out of the house, but don't try to look down on me if I listen to secular music, or if I'm like watching movies that are not Christian movies or whatever like that, as if I'm coming in after curfew. That has nothing to do, like, God never said that you can't watch those things. You know what I mean? And so just because you decided not to, you know, like that, I respect that. That's on you, but don't impose that on me, just like I won't impose my stuff on you either. And then if you see me coming in after actual curfew, help me out. You know, I'll do the same thing for you. Like, there's supposed to be love here. So for me, like, that's one of the big things that I noticed too. Like, you know, as a Christian, like, you know, there has to be like more love. We have to be able to, you know, instead of like looking at people and just quickly being like, they're not of us and stuff like that. We got to pray for people. You know, like if you're not praying for them, then don't criticize them. That's how I see it. You know, like if you're not praying for them, don't criticize them. Stuff
That's
like
a,
that. And then there's a movie called Yes, God, Yes on Netflix. I highly recommend you watch that. That movie was, and you know, for people listening too, like I highly recommend that y'all like go check it out and everything. I thought it was very satirical in nature. It was really funny. It was about this girl who's at a Catholic school, and she's growing up. She's a teenage girl. She's growing up and everything. She's learning about the world around her, and they're like kind of like poking fun at the Catholic slash Christian culture, you know, while showing us like how cringe it can be at times, but then also how hypocritical it can be at times. Like, you know, like I don't want to spoil it, but like it's a really good movie. It's on Netflix. Is dope. And I feel like there's a lot that you know people could learn about it, you know, whether you are Catholic slash Christian or whether you're not, whatever type of faith that you might have. Um,
right.
but the last thing that I wanted to throw out before I let you, you know, just comment on what you probably were gonna say was that I watched a few things about, like, you know, cults. And one of the things I listed down was three components to a cult. And it said that number one, a figure that must be revered or worshipped in some fashion. So you'll have
Yep.
like the charismatic leader. Number two, mind control, which is what some things you also like thought about, like some type of like thought reform or an indoctrinating, using a code of some sort, like maybe like the Bible, as a basis to build personal thoughts and agendas on. And then number three is exploitation, which could be like sexual or financial. Like, you know, hey, give all of your money over here. Or like, you know, even like, you know, kind of like what Jim Jones did. Like, you know, he tried to like, he legitimately used to tell people like, yo, y'all can't sleep with your husbands, but y'all should come sleep with me because I'm the father. Like, you know, it's like, bro, what? What kind of mess?
Dude,
How did
how
you
would you
get
even
that from the
like,
Bible?
logically just do that? That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
But yeah,
Yeah.
those are very accurate that you brought up. I would say the first one though is different because there isn't like a single person that's
I was
leading.
gonna ask about that.
It's
Yeah.
that's what makes the Jehovah's Witnesses different. And that's how people can't really like pinpoint it. Basically,
Mhm.
there's like 8 men in Bethel. I think one of them is black too, which is crazy. But It's like 8 men in Bethel that basically like control. I don't even say control, but that Bethel is like the headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's actually in New York. It's one of the headquarters. It's the headquarters for United States. They have other headquarters in different countries. But yeah, there's not one specific person you're following. I mean, they believe that they're following Jehovah, which is God,
right.
To the translation for God. So that's what they believe they're following. But from being out of it, I realized like, and this kind of dives into my own, like, I guess you could say spiritual beliefs, but they believe that they're following God. But I realized that God is within you and it's not something that's external. So it's not, why do I need to follow a religion that's teaching me? They're teaching me like what to follow and what to do and what this and the third, but they never taught me that it's within myself. You know what I'm saying? So like my whole perception on God has really changed since leaving a religion. But just going back to the first thing about like, they don't really follow a specific person, but in their minds, they think being a part of the religion is like serving God, because they think that God is using this religion to carry out his purpose. You know what I'm saying? They believe that God is going to destroy this world and he's going to bring a new world called the paradise. He's going to resurrect the dead and Jesus is going to rule in heaven. That's what they believe. And they really believe that. They think we're in the last days. So they believe that Armageddon will be the time of the end times. Revelations to talk about the end times, right? They believe that we are in the last days. And I do agree with that, but not physically, not literally. Like we're in the last days, and they believe that Satan is the one that's controlling the world right now. And then when the time comes, nobody knows the time. When the time comes, then Jesus will come back, and destroy this system and destroy Satan and the demons, lock him away in an abyss for what, 100 something odd years, 1,000 years. The righteous ones will inherit the earth. And then like, I guess the chosen ones, the 144,000, you ever heard that number?
That's what the difference is.
The ones that
It was sounding like Christianity, but yeah, go ahead.
It's different. So they believe the 144,000 are the chosen ones that's going to reign with Jesus when he comes back. And they're going to reign with him in heaven. And then everybody else that were holy or, they were good in God's eyes, they're going to inherit the paradise earth. And then everybody else is going to be destroyed in Armageddon. So they basically believe that if you're not, you good?
Yeah, sorry. Keep on talking. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for something like this pamphlet that I got. But keep talking. I'm listening. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, they basically believe that, God is basically going to destroy this earth. And then the ones that are holy and that are part of the religion, they're going to survive and live in paradise earth. So basically paradise earth means that the whole world is going to be new. There's going to be no more sickness, no more disease, no more wars. Everything's going to go back to being perfect, because they believe that we're not perfect. They believe that we're all sinners. So that's basically that ideology in a nutshell of what they follow. So it's not really a specific person, That's what makes it so interesting, because it's like just tapping into my own experience. I realized like I don't need a religion to have an understanding of God. Like that Tupac interview when he was talking about religion and stuff, and he was like, why does God, need to find me in a church with gold ceilings? You know what I'm saying? Like God is wherever where you're at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Like God
I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? So that's like the realization that I came to. And even in the Bible, it says that the kingdom of God is within. So it's like, I kind of just changed. I just changed my whole like perspective. And I started, I guess you could say going on a more like spiritual path. I started tapping into like quantum physics and science, learning about like, even like Buddhism and Hinduism, learning about like the chakras and energy. I'm really into that stuff. And just seeing how it all connects with the mind. That makes more sense to me than the traditional religion that I was taught. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of like just diving into that aspect. But yeah.
Nah, that's word. Actually, as you were talking, like, because one of the things I was actually gonna ask you was, where do you stand now spiritually? And I'm definitely gonna like, dive into that. But the reason why I had that moment while you were talking was because I'm still learning. Like I would like to say like, like I have dug into like a whole bunch of other religions and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
but the more that you learn, then the more that you kind of like want to learn. And it's like I have this like Venn diagram like in my head of like, okay, these are what these faiths have in common. These are what like, what's different.
Different.
And sometimes I try to like, separate them. And I have to like remember like, oh right, that's what Jehovah's Witnesses is, and stuff like that. I have this book over here over here called Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses.
Word. I don't think I ever
Yeah,
seen it.
man. Yeah,
Wait.
it's
I don't think, is that like an independent publication? Like, did
um
somebody make that, or did you get that from a Jehovah's Witness?
oh no. It's independent. Yeah.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I ain't never seen that.
Oh yeah, no.
I know all our publications that we used to have, the
Yeah,
Watchtower, the
Jehovah's
Awake magazine.
Witnesses, they would not want you to read this if you're a
Oh yeah, they
Jehovah's
probably
Witness.
they probably
Yeah.
go in deep and break it down.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
And then one of the things that I also have is this thing called Spirit of Truth, something. And it pretty much got
I
this
never seen
like
that.
whole, yeah, it's dope to be honest. Like it got this like whole thing where it's breaking down like, the difference between like, this is all what how Christians see Jesus, and then how Muslims see Jesus, and then how Mormon Jesus, how Jehovah's Witnesses see Jesus, and how they see sin, stuff like that. AirPod just died, so if my audio changed, you can still hear me though.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's on one side.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, and then modern theology, all of that. So as you were talking, then I was just like, oh shoot, that kind of reminds me of this thing that I have over here, And one of the things I
Word.
was like thinking about was like, so it says, at least so like as a Christian, it says that the way they see Jesus is the word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John 1:14. No man had seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom. Okay, we won't get into that. So yeah, actually, yeah, we won't read that part. But Jehovah's Witnesses apparently saw Jesus as the man Jesus is dead forever, dead. Jesus Christ was a man, neither more nor less. His human existence ended on the cross. It was necessary not only that the man Jesus should die, but just as necessary that he should never live again, should remain dead to all eternity. Before our Lord came, sorry, it's like folded weird. Before our Lord came into the world, he was a created angel and none other than the archangel Michael. The man Christ Jesus never rose from the dead. The man Christ Jesus suffered in the most absolute sense of the word everlasting destruction. We know nothing about what became of Jesus' body, whether it was dissolved into gases, no one knows. Jesus was not a combination of two natures, human and divine. When he was in the flesh, he was a perfect human being, nothing more. His human body may be somewhere kept as a grand memorial, having been supernaturally removed. So, according to this, Jehovah's Witnesses, they see Jesus as just a normal man that, did happen, like live perfectly and everything like that.
Right, and he came to Earth.
Yeah, but they don't believe that he resurrected after his death.
Nah, that's not 100%. What do you mean?
I don't know. Like that's what
Like
this.
resurrected, as in like he came back to Earth after he died,
Yeah,
or
like
like he
after he
came
was
back?
crucified, then he
Oh
resurrected.
yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, after he was crucified, he didn't come back.
Got it.
He went straight, I guess you could say, to heaven. Yeah,
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Like kind of like what you were saying about just studying different religions and stuff. I kind of went through that phase a little bit, and what I learned is like there's actually a term for it. What's that word? It's basically a word where you basically you understand all religions, but you don't have a specific faith in one. I forgot
Oh,
the term.
I mean, right now we just pretty much call it spiritualism.
Well, not well. It's well, yeah, you could say
I get
that
what you
too.
mean, though.
But there's another word for it. It's gonna come to me. Anyways, basically, I learned from a variety of different religions, from the ones I have studied, and I just see the common thread through all of them. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Most of the books teach the same concepts. Be a good person, treat people with respect. You know what I'm saying? Don't kill, don't murder.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The basic stuff. So in my mind, I don't really cling to any specific religion because I'm like, well, they all kind of say the same things in different words. I guess it may sound like I'm simplifying it, but at its core, I look at it like they're just stories. They're just different stories.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Islam, Jesus is in that book.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He's in the Quran.
Yeah.
He comes
He's
up.
in Mormonism too.
You
So
know what I'm saying? So it's like they overlap in a lot of ways, all these different religions. You know what I'm saying? There's just different perspectives. Christianity is giving you Jesus' perspective and
mhm.
what purpose on earth should be. Islam is giving you Muhammad's perspective and what life on earth should be, what you should and shouldn't do. Buddhism is giving you Buddha's perspective.
Mm.
That's all it is to me. So it's like, well, why do I need to claim a specific one? I may relate to one or the other more so I
Right.
can understand why I would, okay, I'm going to devote my life to being this religion because this is the one I resonate with. But then I also think too, as I got older, I had to start asking myself those questions like, am I doing this because this is what I was brought up with? Or am I doing this because this is what I truly believe in? And I
Mm.
think that's the question that people got to ask themselves.
God.
That's what anything in life. Am I doing this because I truly wanted to do it and I believe in it, or am I doing this because this is what society said and this is what I grew up with?
Mm.
It's the conscious choice. Like, okay, it's like the Matrix. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Red pill or
Yeah.
blue pill.
Yeah. No,
You
I
know what I'm
feel you.
saying? It's your choice.
I
You can
think
either go with what you know, or you can go with something new that's unknown, but you'll have an amazing experience from just traveling that path of the unknown.
so. I have a real serious question then that I'm very curious about. Do you believe in absolute truth?
Nah, I've
Mm.
always had a hard time with absolute truths. I mean, I would say yes and no because I do think there are some truths that are just like, nah, it just has to be real. Like the universal laws, for example. You know what I'm saying? The law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of gravity. All these different universal laws are in
Mhm.
place that you cannot dispute. I have
Right.
headphones. I have headphones. If I
Right.
throw this in the air,
Yeah.
it's going to fall
Yeah.
back no matter if I believe in it or not.
Right.
So this is not perception. This is literally like a law. Like it has to fall back down because that's how it was designed.
Right.
So I do believe in some absolute truths. Like, yes, that is a fact. Like that makes sense. But then at the same time, I think that's what makes us as humans so different is that we have a subjective experience at the same time.
I agree.
So just because you grew up believing something and I grew up believing something, it doesn't mean that we're gonna both see the same way.
For
I
sure.
always give this analogy when I talk about like perspective and stuff.
Hmm.
You could take 10 people and put them in a room, right? And they
Yeah.
could all watch a movie. Let's say, what's a relevant movie? That movie Soul, right? That was a
Yeah.
really
So.
good movie,
So.
right?
Yeah.
Some people would say, one person could be like, yo, that was the best movie I ever seen. Another person could be like, yo, that was like the deepest movie I ever seen. Did y'all catch those messages?
Right.
Another person could say, yo, did you see the animation and how they like
Right.
designed it? That
Yeah.
was so nice. Did you see the details and how they made the guy's hair look like that?
Mm.
Every single person is going to see something different in the movie
Right.
because it's a subjective experience
For
based
sure.
on how they were raised, what they grew up with, how do they think, what are they interested in. It's all subjective based on that. So that's where I'm like, well, there really can't be agreed on absolute truth in some aspects of life because it's always a subjective thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
So
I totally feel you. In fact, that's kind of like how I see it too. But I think that the only difference is that I do believe in absolute truth, but I see it as this is where I come in line with you. We see it subjectively. So the way that I see it is like there is like an absolute truth that is out there. Like, like the universal laws, like, so one of the universal laws is the law of non-contradiction. This
right,
thing and that thing cannot both be true if they are like, contradicting each other. Like one of these things are just not true. Maybe both of them are not true. And so we have to like figure out like which one of these, like why do these things like conflict? Because again, like these two things both cannot be true at the same time. And I think that that's one of the things that I've been using a lot to try to get as close to absolute truth as I possibly could. But
Yeah.
because I believe in absolute truth, and that's the thing that I stride towards. But at the same time, I also believe that we all have a subjective experience or a subjective perspective of the absolute truth. So like I could probably have the right answer. Like, like the absolute truth might be ABC, and I could actually believe ABC, but then because I don't have empirical evidence that ABC is absolute truth, then I have to make up my own logic from what I've observed to be like, this is just why I believe ABC. And all the whole time I could be right, but there's no empiricity behind it to prove that ABC is actually accurate. And therefore somebody could even probably come with better syllogism and like tear apart my logic in some way.
That's how I feel about religion. It's the
Yeah,
same. It's the same. It's the same exact dynamic. It's almost like, and this is kind of how I look at, for getting really deep. This is how I look at like the universe. It's like it's a big puzzle, and everything is like fragmented into little pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
The absolute is the puzzle. The subjective,
And when they all come together,
when it all condenses, it's one big picture. That's the absolute truth. So
Yeah.
there is a God or a creator or some higher source of energy, whatever you want to call it. That's the truth, at least to me. I know some people are atheists, but it makes sense. We had to come from something. Even if it was a Big Bang, something had to make the Big Bang or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it too. It's like, it's just a big puzzle, and then everything's like a fragment of that puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Like a little piece here, little piece here. Even how I look at race and stuff like that. We're all like little pieces, but you put us all together with one big picture.
Yeah. To be honest, I think I tweeted about it one time too. I think that that's how NI kind of like sees things. NI, at least by Personality Hacker, is referred to as perspectives. And I feel like what NI often does, like the way that NI is able to often see the SE empirical truth of something, because SE is the most empirical function out there, because it sees things clearly just for what it is. Like there's no argument of what it doesn't look deeper, beyond the surface or anything. It just sees things exactly like for what it is. So for NI, it gathers the perspectives of everybody else so that it could see the bigger picture of what's in front of them. But at the same time, again, the law of non-contradiction, if your perspective doesn't match up with this person's perspective, one of these puzzle pieces got to go. So we do actually have to fling out some puzzle pieces. And that's, it's, one will never probably figure out, the empiricity behind absolute truth, because, it's like this, and that's how NI often kind of feels like this endless road that you're.
It's a never-ending rabbit hole that it's like a black hole. It just keeps. We'll never really truly know. I be thinking about that sometimes. Like, yo, like how is it that we're literally on a rock and we're like floating in space?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just zoom out and I'm like, like having like a bird's eye view. Like, yo, like this is really crazy how we're really here on a rock.
And one of the crazy things behind that is that the Hindu religion, for example, they believed that the earth was on top of Atlas's back, and Atlas was standing on top of an elephant, and then the elephant was on top of a turtle that was out.
We don't even know. How will we even know that?
And my thing is exactly.
That's so crazy.
So my thing is, like, honestly, I don't agree with that. But I don't have empirical evidence, quote unquote.
So I can't really
not trying to like not trying to like put out this flat earth type of stuff, but I don't have empirical evidence, quote unquote, able to go out into space and have seen from my own eyes, like, oh yeah, the earth really isn't on the back of Atlas and this is that. We look at what NASA gives us, and then people be like, oh, but NASA tweaked this and this is that. I don't know, like
NASA is
like with some matrix and everything, like everybody's being deceived, and now you don't even know what to believe. This whole COVID stuff, it's like people are like, this ain't even real, it was manufactured and this that. So it's just like, you don't even know what to believe. And that's what it comes down to. Like, yo, there is an absolute truth, is the earth really on top of Atlas's back? The absolute truth, it's still going to be absolute regardless of whatever we believe. So just because I don't believe that it is doesn't mean that it
That
really
can't be
isn't.
true.
Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't influence that. You know, just because I don't believe in God does not make God any less true than what he might be.
But that's what's so trippy about reality is like you in a way are like the center of your own universe. Like you are, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like that's what I learned about. Like I'm really into the mind and stuff and learning about like the subconscious mind and stuff. It's like
Surprise, surprise.
that controls that controls 95% of your reality. So like if you've been conditioned, it's like it's like the observer effect or whatever they call it. I think it's like when you, let's say you go out today, right? And you're like, you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to notice every single yellow car. I guarantee you're going to go outside and you're going to see like 30 yellow cars.
For sure, yeah.
Now, the thing is, are the yellow cars new or were the yellow cars always there and your perception changed? So now it's like a magnifying glass. Now you're like, oh, I'm noticing every single yellow car because you programmed your mind to notice every single yellow car. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
So that's why I always say like it's subjective because it's just how you look at it. The yellow cars been there the whole time.
Yeah.
They didn't invent
the absolute truth.
This is the absolute truth. They didn't invent
Yeah.
some new yellow cars, but your
Right.
perspective on yellow cars changed. So now you're noticing, yo, there's a yellow car right there. There's a yellow car right there. There's a yellow car right there. Because you changed in here first. So that's why I kind of say it's like it's more subjective, but the absolute definitely plays a role.
So then what do you think about this kind of process? Because this is the kind of process that I've adopted now. As currently I identify as a Christian. And I honestly, regardless of what people might try to say, I honestly try to avoid confirmation bias. I don't like, that whole ideology of like, well, what if you grew up in a Muslim household? Don't you think you would have been just as strong of a Muslim? Or would you grow up as a Buddhist or atheist, whatever like that? You're only going by Christianity just because that's what you grew up with. I didn't want to go like that. And so for me, I don't try to look for facts to just prove Christianity right. If somebody hits me with stuff, which I've talked to a lot of non-believers and stuff like that, and I've looked into a whole bunch of different religions, like I could, if I really wanted to, I could convince my my YouTube subscribers that I am a Satanist, because that's how deeply I've looked into Satanism, and I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand why they believe what they believe. I understand why Catholics believe what they believe. I understand why, Jehovah's Witnesses even believe what they believe and stuff like that. But then, again, the law of non-contradiction, I start looking at stuff and I'm like, wait a minute. Muslims believe, for example, so again, like, Hindus, once again, they believe that world's on top of Atlas's back, boom, boom, boom. I don't believe that that's true. So if that is not true, then how can we trust the other information that they presented, about, gods and stuff like that? So that might be evidence to discard that puzzle piece. Not that there's nothing that you could learn from Hindu people, but it's not really something that goes into the absolute truth. Muslims, they believe that Jesus was actually not crucified, but he was replaced on the cross by Judas, and Judas was the one who actually died. And boom, boom, boom.
What? I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before.
There's a whole thing behind it.
You just taught me something.
Wait a minute. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, man. And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Again, the law of non-contradiction. The Bible says, because a lot of Muslims say that, God and Allah are the same person. Personally, again, this is just my opinion. I don't believe they're the same, because Allah does not have a son, Jesus Christ, but God, the Father of the Bible, does have a son, Jesus Christ, so, and Allah, he says to do this and do this and do that, but God in the Bible does not say that. So I feel like these God and Allah contradict each other, so therefore they are not the same, even though Allah is another name for the God, but it's not the same God that the Christians believe in. So going back to what I was saying, law of non-contradiction.
That's interesting.
If the Quran is saying that Jesus never was crucified and it was actually Judas and boom, 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 but then the Bible is saying that Jesus was crucified and boom, 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 boom. Now I can't look at either of them. I have to look at, okay, what like, these two things are contradicting. These two things both cannot be true. What else can I look at? So one of my favorite references is the book called The Annals by Cornelius Tacitus. He's a famously revered Roman historian, even by atheists. He wasn't even like a Christian. He's not a Christian or anything, but he wrote in his book, The Annals, that Jesus died underneath the ultimate penalty and execution of Pontius Pilate, which is the crucifixion. So if a very highly esteemed historian even agrees with the Bible that, yeah, Jesus actually was crucified, but the God of the Quran was not able to, identify that, what else can we probably think like, wait a minute, then what else is the God of the Quran, like, quote unquote, lying to us about? Did Muhammad even actually find this thing? Like, what's going on? And then there's stuff like this with like Mormonism.
That's interesting.
That. Yeah. So I look into, like, there's this dude, he died unfortunately last year, but his name is Ravi Zacharias. I believe that he's an ISTP, so TI dominant and SE. This man, he used to be an atheist, or actually, no, I'm sorry, not atheist. I think he was Hindu. He's Indian, but he became a Christian at a younger age, and he's just all about the facts. Like, and this man, like, if you watch videos, he doesn't like say the Bible says this, the Bible says that, blah, blah, blah. Like, he doesn't use circular reasoning. Like, he actually will like debate atheists, Mormons, all that in a very calm, smooth swagger type of dude. And he'll just give reasons for this and this and that. And it all makes sense. And I'm like, oh shoot. And I used to tell Jamila, I used to be like, yo, the day that this man is no longer a Christian, I'm going to start questioning my Christianity, because people would ask me questions. I'm like, shoot, honestly, I don't know. Dang, I would not do that. You know what, to be honest, maybe this stuff is fake. Then I go watch a video on Ravi Zacharias explaining it, and it makes sense. And it's like, oh shoot, and it's not just him in the Christian circle talking about this stuff. He trusts his knowledge enough to be able to go out to speak to Buddhists, to speak to Muslims, to speak to all different types of religions, atheists, on the stage, have people at colleges. Like, if you look this dude up, man, they're asking him questions.
Yeah, you got to send me some links. Send me some links.
There's a video on my page, because when he died, I made a little tribute to him of like 3 of my favorite responses from him and stuff like that. This man broke stuff down. I'm telling you. And he's a reverse type. So I feel like you'd really appreciate him too as an ISTP.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, like,
that's deep.
Stuff like that. Like, again, TI does not always mean that it's right, but only that it just makes sense.
It's just looking at the logical consistency.
Exactly. And so, of course,
so if it's not consistent, right?
Yeah. So the whole thing is that he's at least proven that everything about Christianity in itself makes sense. And when it comes in contrast with other things in life, then it doesn't make sense. It's not coherent. And so when I watch him and then I watch like other people, and I see people like debating him and being like, oh shoot, like, dang, that's actually a good point. Like, then it's just like, oh, it's not that he's trying to win the debate, but he's just like, I see where you're coming from, but explain this or explain that. Well,
give me the reasoning. Yeah. And a lot of times
he doesn't beg the question. He's like, boom, 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 and he addresses it. And it's like, oh, you know what? Christianity not only does make sense, but I feel like it probably is like the right thing. And he is, if anybody's close to the absolute truth, it seems like this dude is. He doesn't seem like he has like a bias, like, I need to prove this. I feel like he really was always a man who was like, if you could actually tear apart my logic in a way that I did not really understand this and everything,
right, I give it to you.
I will succumb to it, because he seemed like a man that was seeking truth.
You see, but a lot of times people are not like that no more. Like, a lot of times people are not looking for the facts. They're not looking for the truth. And that's what I had to realize when I was trying to explain to my parents and my friends. I'm like, y'all, like, the facts is right here. Yeah, you can go look it up. I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, it's just, as a society, I just don't think people are conditioned enough to think for yourself and to like you said, like, question things and try to find your own sense of logic of like, well, does this make sense to me? Right. You know what I'm saying? We've just been so taught to like, well, that's what they told us, so I'm just going to follow that. And then you're like 30, 40 years into something deep that you didn't even realize that you like doing or you actually cared about. because that thinking part of yourself doesn't really kick in until later. And then you start, being more reflective and stuff. When you're young, you're just like, oh, that's what everybody else is doing. All right, I'm just gonna do that.
Exactly.
You don't put too much thought into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I was trying to explain to them. Like, I just want y'all to think for yourself and just see if this makes sense. If it makes sense to you, then keep doing it.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, don't be afraid to change your mind just because you realize all of a sudden that it doesn't click for you anymore. Because people think that's a bad thing. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to be loyal to this anymore. Or I'm not being consistent. Like, you can always pivot. Kind of like I was saying earlier, you can always pivot.
It goes right back to that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you can always pivot.
I fully agree with that too. Like, I know a lot of Christians who watch this, they might like feel some type of way about me saying this. If they're still listening after I said that whole story about me in high school. but like for real, like I know a lot of Christians, like they might like, look at me weird after this. But like the truth of the matter is that if I come across information that I try to fact check and verify, and I come to and I see that like, yo, this actually does seem like a legit truth. Christianity does not hold up within itself and everything. This is just not right. Yeah, that'll suck. But at the same time, I'm gonna just be grateful. Like, dang, well, if this is the truth, T.I. inferior, I don't care. I'm still someone who seeks truth, and therefore I'm not going to just continue to try like dedicate myself to Christianity, if that's the sense. But at the end of the day, like right now, so far, have I been presented with such information that seemed that way? Yes. But then when I look into it, or I watch a Ravi Zacharias video, like, what does he think about this? Because sometimes I might not just know the answer to that question. That doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden proved whatever I believed to be it was wrong, but maybe I'm just not smart enough or I'm not informed enough to know the answer to that. So I at least should look up, what is the true answer to this, and then when I look it up and everything, then it's like, oh, that makes sense. Now, whatever. But if I can't find an answer for that, and it's like depending on what it is, then yeah, I'm gonna have to walk away from that because I've received new information that seems to be true. And until something defeats that truth or what I now perceive to be truth, even if it's subjectively in my pursuit of absolute truth, then I'm gonna just keep on walking with the truth that I have right now. And I'm always open to receiving those perspectives from other people. So that's kind of like how I move through life. And yeah, that's just why I wanted to ask you that question. Like, do you believe in absolute truth and where you stand with spirituality in that sense and everything? Because I'm never anyone, like, I'm not someone who imposes my beliefs upon people. I'm someone who kind of like what you said that you wish the JWs did. I'll present why I believe something to someone. And then with that information, they can do whatever they want. And I invite them, like if they want, they can poke holes in it. Because if it doesn't hold up, I definitely want you to tell me. But at the same time, I don't want you to be condescending with it. That's number one. You're an idiot. So
and the thing I learned too is a lot of the times I'm not gonna really share my opinion until I'm like 90 like +% sure. Like, okay, this is what I'm gonna say. If I know I don't got the facts or the information, I'm not gonna try to act like I know something.
Yeah.
I know that's what NI users, we don't do that a lot. We don't try to act like we know stuff. If we don't know it, we don't know it. I suck at it. I don't know, But once I know I got that confidence and when I got the information, I'm definitely going to say something and speak up. You know what I'm saying? That's what I've learned. Like a lot of times there is just a lot of information that just gets thrown around, but people don't do enough in depth thinking about it to verify, okay, does this really make sense? Or I just heard this last week and it sound good. I'm about to go tell everybody. Like for me, I noticed that I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna marinate for a little bit. Like, okay, thinking about this, I see how this is moving, connecting the dots. And then after I review it enough, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna speak up and say something,
Right. Yeah, for sure. I respect that, man, for real. Yo, I'm gonna have to invite you back on the podcast soon, man. This has been a good.
This has been a good convo.
Yeah, this has been a
good. We touched on everything.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yo, again, just in case the people have not been able to, watch the other podcasts, you mind dropping where people can find you, stuff like that, what you do before we close out?
So you guys can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. My Instagram and my Twitter handle is Alonzo Vibes _23. So it's spelled ALONZO _ wait, no, that's not it. AAALONZO and then vibes VIBEZ _23. I don't know how I spelled it earlier.
Y'all.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the description. So that's my Instagram, my Twitter. But I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm on Facebook too. I don't really post on Facebook a lot, but I am in like some of the like the MBTI groups and stuff
True.
on there. But I also have a YouTube channel as well. It's Lonnie Gillard. You can find me on YouTube. I want to start posting more as well. I also have a podcast too. It's called the Power Within Podcast. I haven't posted since like last year though. But this year I'm definitely like thinking about some new content ideas and stuff like that. So that's where you guys can find me. I'm also a vegan personal chef. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So I also have meal prep programs. I have a cooking class every Sunday, $10 a month. So, if you follow me on the socials, you'll be able to see all that stuff and connect with me. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for sure. And y'all could also check out Lonnie and me on Megan Lavoda's video, the ENFJ round table. I think it was like 8 of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were with me on that. I forgot.
Man.
Yeah, that was a really cool conversation. We have to do one of those again.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
I have to go back and watch that video again. That was a dope conversation for sure.
Yeah,
but that was really cool. Check my man out on there. It's actually in my playlist. Videos of others that I recommend, in case if y'all may not follow her for whatever reason, or not know of her. But yeah, if you go search ENFJ Roundtable, you should be able to find us in that video too. But yeah, Lonnie, thanks again for this has been like 3 hours conversation.
We've been talking for a minute
straight. I'm glad I ate before I got on.
After this, I'm hungry, yo.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And
no, this is good. This is really good. I really feel like I got to just connect and get a lot of things off my chest. I don't really have a lot of friends like you. I have a variety of different types of friends, but somebody with your similar personality type, same personality type, it's just a different level of understanding.
I feel you.
Even when I explain things, we kind of give very lengthy explanations. Sometimes I even be feeling I don't even got to say that much. He gets you. He understands what you're coming from. That's a very refreshing feeling, to be honest.
Yo, mad respect. Same on this end too. Yeah, I feel the same way. And if anything, my explanations also, at least when we're talking one-on-one, it don't have to be that lengthy, but just for the sake of other people who may be watching, they don't really know stuff. And it's I have to kind of extend it, drag it on a little bit. Yeah. But dude, again, I appreciate you a lot, man. And sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2021 has for you. You're definitely going to be featuring back on Candid Concepts this year soon.
So, I got to feature you too on my podcast. I don't know what we could talk about, but I want to get mine tracing again.
We already had one a while back.
Oh yeah, we did. I forgot about that. Yo, I did so much stuff last year. Yo, we did do an episode. I forgot. Yeah. We got to definitely do some more.
For sure, man. For sure. But all right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And make sure that you check out the description for all of the other stuff that you're able to find Lonnie on. Make sure that you check out the Vegan Chef video too, or the Vegan Chef podcast. If you haven't already checked that out with Lonnie. And done.